Item, neu connecten. DevOps people. Welcome to Full Stack Live. Hello, Raiders. Welcome, welcome. I'm Jochen, the Monospace mentor, and today I'm doing my weekly office hour.
It's a Unix system.
Sunny Dev, welcome to the stack. I'm a little bit discombobulated at the moment because, I had fiddled around with my scenes and forgot that I still had to make myself a coffee. So I rushed and made a coffee, and then I realized, oh, I'm too late, and rushed into the stream. And it is what it is. Let's start scuffed anyway. So, office hour. What does that mean? That means I have, at least ahead of the stream, the easier time because I don't have to prepare anything. And it's up to you to ask questions that are in my wheelhouse, ideally. So things about Linux system administration, software development in general, or about Ruby in specific. IT careers, all that stuff. That's what we're going to do this hour. And so you can actually ask questions, and I've introduced a new platform for doing so, to which I'd like to invite you. It's at qa.monospacementor.com, where you can anonymously post questions and I can pick them and we can talk about them. So let me quickly catch up with chat and then we'll launch the Q&A. Here we go. So welcome everyone. Thanks to TBD Gamer for the raid. Hello Apex Pixelated. Hello Deflux Streams. Welcome to the stack. Caffeine injections. You know, I'm not even the oh dear, now I'm blanking on the word. I'm not the cliche system administrator who actually lives off caffeine. I actually drink coffee because I enjoy the taste. That's why I get fresh beans on a weekly basis. And so a caffeine injection would have worked back in the day when I was doing night shifts and 16-hour days at work. And back then that would really helped. And actually, I used to use caffeine pills from time to time. For example, if I had to drive late at night after a long course day or something like that, I would actually take caffeine pills just to lower the risk of me having an accident. But nowadays, I drink coffee simply for the enjoyment, once or twice a day at the most. So your injections would probably be helpful for incidents and outages of my managed hosting platform, but not if I want to drink a nice little coffee while I have a conversation with all you folks. Okay, so yes, qa.monospacementor.com. Let me get that on screen. We need a nice little browser window. Let's get that done. Here we go. And let's do this. Just a second. As I said, I'm not as prepared as I should be, even though I wouldn't have to prepare any content. So, okay, here we go. And we already have questions on here. That's brilliant. Thanks for joining. You can either use qa.monospacementor.com or you can use the QR code that's on screen if you are watching this from your phone, for example. And yes, so let's go right into the first question. Could you explain the device with the blinking LEDs in the background? Greetings from snowy Holland. Hello to the Netherlands. Hello to the continent over there. I'm streaming from Bray, Ireland. And you were referring to the blinking lights thingy here behind me. That is a replica of a PDP-11. The PDP-11 was one of the most popular mini computers in the early 70s, and manufactured by Digital Equipment Corporation, or DEC in short. And the PDP-11 was the machine on which Unix was developed and invented. The guys at Bell Labs got themselves a PDP-11. It's an interesting story how they did that. They ported the early beginnings of Unix from the PDP-7 they had. So Unix was basically developed on the PDP-11. That thing back there is a replica, so it's a scale replica. I think the front panel is about 2/3 of the original size, and it doesn't have a PDP-11 inside. It's a Raspberry Pi. But it runs SimH, which is a simulation software for historic operating systems. So I can actually run Research Unix v7, so the Unix version from about 1975 on this machine, as it was back then. The original Unix v7 will run on this machine. And these blinking lights aren't just for stream effects. They are actually displaying the states of different registers, and there's a bunch of toggle switches, a whole row of toggle switches under these blinking lights, where you could actually enter machine code byte by byte or word by word. You'd have to say the PDP-11 was a 16-bit machine. And so this is an original, or a simulation of the original PDP-11. And since I'm a fan of Unix, when I had the opportunity to get this nice little piece of kit as a kit that I would have to build myself, I immediately got it. So it's not an actual PDP-11, it's basically called a PyDP-11. Keep the questions going. And of course, if you like, you can also ask in chat. However, with the interactive Q&A one, it's easier for me to highlight the questions that I'm answering, especially for people who just are joining the stream. They can see the context about which I'm waffling on about at the moment. So you can simply join us at qa.monospacementor.com. It's anonymous. You don't have to create an account or leave your email address or anything. You can just go inside and post your question and it'll pop up on screen. And what's also possible, as you can see here, you can also upvote questions. So if there's a question that you especially like and that you want me to answer first, you can even upvote questions. Why do you want just asking? Hello, how are you doing? I hope you're having a great Friday. I just realized I have to move my ticker a little bit, otherwise it conflicts with the newly added subscriber labels. Where's the ticker here. Can I do that with... No, I can't. How about this? Yes. That's better. I'm doing great. I had a very relaxed day so far. I started my day with getting the kids ready for school, and then I left for a 5-kilometer walk in nice, crisp, cold air, but in the morning sun, so I really enjoyed that. And then I went straight from the park to Starbucks and got myself my first dose of caffeine and a nice little pastry, and there I did a little bit of research on course creation and things like that, because I'm building courses at the moment, which I'm going to offer at monospacementor.com. And so I spent the rest of the morning watching videos about how to structure a course, what to look out for, how to make things more interactive, so I don't do, for example, a monologue lecture type course for 2 hours, things like that, which was very interesting, enlightening, and I'm really excited to get these courses going. That is also a great question. What is the best way to learn database management systems in an interactive way? If you can, please share with us. Of course I can. So, as you might know, my business is managed hosting. My company specializes in high-performance web hosting for Drupal and for WordPress. We run many high-traffic websites from newspapers, magazines, from charities like Doctors Without Borders, websites that can or do get a lot of traffic. And it's up to us to have the infrastructure in place to make sure the website will stay online when it's the most important. So databases are, of course, a big part of that, and we do run MySQL in a highly available setup. The best way to learn database management systems is basically to run them for a specific cause. It doesn't have to be something high stakes as my use case, and I definitely did not start out that way. However, even in previous jobs where, for example, I was a corporate IT manager, I was responsible for the billing database system of a company with millions of customers. Yeah, as you can imagine, billing is one of the most important use cases. If that database goes down, there you'll have the CFO at your desk quite quickly. And so yeah, of course, nothing beats the real thing. If you run databases in production, you'll learn about them automatically if you want to or not. You can start a little bit less stressful by, for example, running your own WordPress for your personal website, for example, or your blog, or for a web application that you'd like to have online. And that way, you can probably start out by following a tutorial that basically tells you what to do, even if you don't understand what you're doing. And after that, you can get more into the weeds as much as you like. Basically, you can take a look at how, for example, WordPress sets up its database tables and indices and things like that. And of course, there will come the day when you have to do troubleshooting. And that's when you probably will have a terminal open with the MySQL prompt, and next to it a browser with the MySQL documentation, and then you'll start learning about all these things that you need to know. And of course, it's best if you can do that in a less stressful way than having the whole revenue of a company depending on it. that is definitely one of the ways that I can recommend. Learning by doing is, from my perspective, the best way to do these things. I'll be honest, I did the same thing just this and the previous week, because we had a few issues with our databases, for example, one of the databases had hardware problems where the SSDs showed signs of wear and started slowing down because they've been operating 24/7 for years, basically. And so it was clear that we had to set up new databases, and that introduced the issue of new database versions, for example, MySQL 8 and things like that. And I did have to do some learning myself. Even after 13 years of running my company, I'm still learning on a daily basis. And it was... it took some effort to find the things that I needed to know, but after that you can always say, okay, I'm less stupid than I was before, and improvement and accomplishment are both things that make you feel great. Did that answer your question, or do you have anything more specific that I can answer? Feel free to post more stuff on this topic or introduce other topics. That's the advantage of this platform that I'm using here, Vivox. It allows me to pick stuff in the order that makes sense to me, and and you can even see what I'm talking about. This time I'm going to have my coffee finished when I end the stream. Yesterday, even after 3 hours of doing a live stream, I still had coffee left because I was so busy that I forgot about drinking. That's not
the bombers, get the subs in launch mode.
going to happen today. DEFCON 1. Overgrown Carrot, thank you for the raid. Second raid already today. Welcome, raiders, and welcome to Full Stack Live. I'm Jochen, the Monospace Mentor, and this is my office hour where I answer questions from you, the viewers. So join us on qa.monospacementor.com, where you can post questions like the ones you see on screen, and I'll answer them as best I can. Overgrown Carrot, how has your stream been, and what did you do today?
It's a Unix system. I know this.
The Bishop. Welcome to the stack. Thanks for following. Hacking an AD machine. Interesting. Active Directory is the proverbial hacking target, isn't it? Has always been, I think. Streamed for around 3 hours. That's brilliant. I hope you had a lot of fun. 3 hours is something that up until recently I was never able to achieve. I tended to get tired quite quickly, and making it to 2 hours was good for me. I really struggled from October last year on, until I realized that I had simply vitamin D deficiency. And as soon as I started taking vitamin D supplements and going outside at daytime, suddenly I found myself doing 2.5 and 3 hour streams and still having fuel left in the tank. So yeah, sometimes it's really simple stuff that you just have to find out about. AD has a lot of problems. I think that's what you're referring to. Yeah, that's my impression as well. I've never really used AD. I think I tried to use the directory features that Samba offers. I assume in conjunction with an LDAP server. But that never went far because I simply hadn't the use case. I just wanted to try and see how this looks like. I think far back in the past, I did actually set up a directory service on NetWare when I was still using NetWare as the network operating system for clients I was consulting, but that was probably about 20 years ago. You hacked a Linux machine at first. Interesting. I'll have to watch your VOD because I'd really like to see what you did there. Okay, no root squash. Yeah, that's not really a good idea, I see. Avid copy bash over the mount. Kerberos 5 keytab file. Nice. Oh dear. Yeah. I'll definitely have a look at the recording. So I'm really curious what you did there, and especially in terms of the Linux side of things. That's always enlightening. So I just answered the DBMS question. Feel free to join us on qa.monospacementor.com. You don't have to have you won't be asked for a user account. You won't be asked for your email address. You can simply post anonymously, and I trust you to not play any shenanigans with me. But it's a great way to get your questions on screen and give a little bit of context to the people that are just joining the stream. So feel free to go over there and post a question that you would like me to answer, ideally about something that's in my area of expertise, which is pretty broad, roughly about Linux system administration, software engineering, IT careers, things like that. If you have anything that you always wanted to ask but never dared to, now's the time. But it isn't difficult to put a group to a user. I know someone who's offering Linux courses who will definitely cover that topic. User management is going to be a chapter in my Linux master course, which I'm going to launch hopefully in the first half of this year. That's why I spent my morning with texts and videos about course design and things like that, because that's definitely one of the first products I'm going to offer at monospacementor.com. I've been doing Linux since 1993, which should be pretty sufficient to share a bit of experience. And I've been doing so for a long time. Before I started this business 13 years ago, where the hosting business, I worked as a SUSE certified Linux trainer and had a lot of fun. I really love teaching. I love seeing the light bulb going off on over people's heads. And yeah, that's something I've always enjoyed and I'd want to get back to. Hedonica asked in chat, can an operating system have dementia and just delete files randomly? That's an interesting picture. Operating system getting older and forgetting stuff. If it's buggy, it can certainly do these things. I mean, bugs, for example, in file systems, in file system code, aren't unheard of. And so that's definitely possible. I never learned what really happened, but I think that might have been the case with a Drobo NAS that I once owned, where from one day to the next, not only wasn't I able to get to my files, but it also became really, really difficult to get them back. So I always have been assuming that it was a firmware bug in there that actually destroyed my data. And that definitely taught me the values of backups, because I didn't have many of them. And so I really had to use disk recovery software with a hard disk from the RAID system and try and recover as much as I could, including early videos of my daughter, for example, from after she was born and from her first 2 years or something like that. So that might have been a case of such dementia where the NAS completely failed to do its job, and all the redundancy that it was offering didn't help either, because data was destroyed on the storage level. And so if you have corrupted data, it doesn't help if it's mirrored across disks or not. RJ offered bitrot as another scenario, but that's more on the hardware level than on the operating system level. But yeah, that's definitely also the case. The storage media might deteriorate, especially if we're talking about magnetic media. And for example, bits can also flip by the way of alpha radiation, which is basically nuclear particles that are big enough to actually change the state of a magnetic particle or things like that. So that's possible, but I mean, a randomly flipped bit or something like that will usually not completely destroy data, but it's definitely possible to cause a little bit of havoc. And here's a new question. I consider myself a generalist, which is good, and good at finding and proving out prototype solutions using a broad range of technologies, but don't enjoy grinding out the production quality version.
It's a Unix system. I know this.
Precious Up, welcome to the stack. That's very kind of you to follow the channel. But don't enjoy grinding out the production quality version once the problem feels like it's been solved. Given that most job ads seem to want specialists with depth or knowledge to grind out the production code, are you aware of roles in the industry for this generalist prototypal style of working? I mean, I can't point you to any particular job where that would be the case, but I think your approach definitely fits my common recommendation to try and become what I and many others call a T-shaped engineer, which is basically you have a broad spectrum of topics that you can or that you have experience and skills about on a more or less shallow level. It's definitely not too specific and not too deep, but it's broad. So you basically have, for example, an understanding of the full stack for, say, web applications. You know about the role that IP addresses play, how DNS comes into things, how HTTP headers work, but you also know how to access a database from a web application that might be written in a language that you are familiar with. You know about stuff on the front-end level, maybe have a little bit of insight into CSS and HTML and JavaScript as well. But then, and that's what turns this basic row of topics that you are familiar with into a T-shaped skill set, is that for one particular topic you go deep, where you really have expertise, where you have daily practice, things like that. That might, for example, be about databases or about writing web applications in a scalable way, things like that. Or it might even be on the network level, where you say, okay, yeah, my main expertise is in network services. I know HTTP inside out. I can tell you what each bit in the TCP packet header does, things like that. And what that does is, I think, it shows that you are able to acquire a broad range of knowledge, but you are also able to, as you say, grind out a specific job that you might have. And even if your area of expertise isn't what your future employer is looking for, you can make a case in your interview that you will be able to go deep on any topic that your employer will expect you to do, because you've already proven that you can do that. And that way, I think you'll be quite well prepared for new jobs. Because, I mean, if you are a specialist in a specific topic, you have to, you limit yourself automatically to topics that require that particular skill set. But if you can actually make the case that, yeah, I know a lot of things quite good, but I'm not a specialist in that. But there is a topic where you can ask me anything about. I think that's a good approach to distribute your attention. Does that make sense? We can definitely circle back to this question, so I'll leave it on screen. Another question is, for beginners, how to learn cybersecurity? Is it necessary to take certification exams like CompTIA or SCP, etc.? I'm not too deep into cybersecurity, to be honest. Most of the stuff that I know about cybersecurity is either because it relates directly to what I'm doing, but I don't do, say, offensive security stuff or things like that. So there are streamers that will be much more suited to answer that question. From what I can see is that certifications are a big topic, and they might actually be the key to getting the CertiDev. Yes, of course you can. There is no competition here. We are all in the same boat, and a rising tide floats all of us. So if you want to suggest streamers, please do so. Yeah, certifications might be the thing that gets your foot in the door with a specific employer, for example, or a client if you are doing that on a freelance basis. And I guess what will help in any case is references. If you have people, clients, past employers that can vouch for the quality of work you deliver, that will always also be a great point and might actually tip the scales. It's hard to answer that question in a general way, because it definitely will depend on the type of job and type of industry you're trying to get into. I would imagine that getting into cybersecurity, say in some kind of authorities and government and things like that, will be very different from doing the security for say a business corporation or something like that. You're very welcome. Precious Abast, when do I usually stream? So my usual streaming times are always 2 p.m. UTC, which happens to be my local time here in Ireland as well. On Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2 p.m. I do live coding streams, which is basically I share what I'm working on at the moment. That's probably going to be some kind of DevOps stuff with an emphasis on the operations side of things, where I do, say, infrastructure code for our hosting platform, but I might also work on Monospace mentor stuff, like, for example, writing course materials about Linux and other things. And on Fridays, I'm doing this office hour, where I answer questions either from our Discord or questions that you folks post live during the stream. I might do additional bonus streams with, say, co-working and other stuff, but those aren't scheduled. I do those on a whim, but the Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday streams, they are penciled in. The Laman is asking for the cap? You mean my hat? My woolen hat? Do you really like that woolen hat so much that you're missing it if I'm not wearing it? That's amazing. I'll tell my wife that the hat that she brought from Peru is a great success with my viewers. And welcome to the stack, the Laman. Crazy software engineer look. Okay, I see. You tricked me. But you're not far from the truth. That's a fantastic question. What made you learn Unix or Linux? Curiosity. Pure curiosity. From an early age, I was fascinated with computers, and so at about I always had nerd hobbies. I think at age 9 or 10, I got an interest in chemistry after getting one of these lab kits for Christmas. And I started experimenting and doing stuff, and it ended up with me having my own ring binder of chemical formulas that I memorized and stuff like that. I started frequenting the library, reading all kinds of chemistry books and experiments for kids and stuff like that. I started frequenting the local pharmacy and asking them for all kinds of substances. And more than once, they had to call my parents to validate if I was allowed to get that stuff. And then I went on to electronics, and at age 13, which was in 1983, I discovered home computers, and a year later I got my first home computer. So it started there, and it didn't end. It's still ongoing today. I so I got used to the usual operating systems, first the home computer ones, and then of course to DOS and Windows when they came out, or when we got a PC actually. And then I started studying computer science, and I guess some colleague at uni made me aware that there was this thing called Linux, which was basically kind of a professional operating system like Unix, but actually something that I could afford licensing, as opposed to the Unix licenses that you had to pay back in that day and that only big businesses could afford. And so I got myself an early version of SUSE Linux and installed that on my PC, and the rest is history. I started Linux. I tried using Linux on as a desktop operating system as well, but that really didn't go well, which got me then back to, I guess, Windows, and then in the early 2000s I got myself a Mac Mini, and then for at least 10 years I enjoyed the highly polished UI of macOS. Yeah, so the answer is basically curiosity, and that's something that people have seen me recommending frequently here on stream as well. My usual answer: what do I have to bring to the table to be successful in IT? My first answer is always going to be curiosity, because that gets you into things, that gets you to learn things. But you'll probably have to find a way to apply your knowledge practically. You need to have a use case, otherwise you won't stick with it, and that then won't be something that you can write home about. Precious Up wrote, what's he making in there? I assume you're referring to my chemical experiments, and yes, the carpet in my room wasn't pristine anymore once I started doing experiments. Lots of bald flecks on the carpet, where some acid or even no, I didn't burn down the carpet, but oftentimes I dropped something that would then eat away at the carpet. That's why in the end I moved into our garden shed. There was an unused garden shed, and I threw out the old stuff and put in a camping table and a chair, and took all my gas burners and flasks and stuff with me, and then I did my experiments out there, which also helped with all the smells that I was generating. I have to say my parents were really lenient and trustful. I'm not sure if you'd ask me, if your kids started doing something like that, would you let them? That would be a toss-up, I think. Hedonica asks, do you believe in Balmer Peak? What is Balmer Peak? Is that a mountain? Or are we talking about the mountain that once was leading Microsoft? So for everyone who's joined recently, this is the Monospace Office Hour. You can join us at qa.monospacementor.com to post your questions anonymously. You don't need a user account, you don't need an email address, nothing like that. You can just jump in and post your question, and I'll address it here on stream. There was an XKCD comic about ideal blood level alcohol for programming. I'll have to look that up. That sounds hilarious. I guess XKCD Balmer Peak? But why Balmer? Balmer was never known to be under the influence, was he? Called the Balmer Peak. It was discovered by Microsoft in the late 80s. The cause is unknown, but somehow a blood alcohol concentration between 0.129 and 0.138 confers superhuman programming ability. However, it's a delicate effect requiring careful calibration. You can't just give a team of coders a year's supply of whiskey and tell them to get cracking. Has that ever happened? Remember Windows ME? Yeah, okay. Yeah, the punchline was really worth it. Okay. I believe in caffeine-fueled coding. Did it myself many times, but I don't think alcohol will help me. It just makes me tired and woozy. The Lumen, can you share something? Well, that's vague enough for me to not be able to answer the question, but hey, I trust you. Go ahead. I share B. Theo's philosophy. Feel free to post stuff in chat. I trust you to apply common sense, and if you don't, you'll get banned. That's it. Interesting link. Interesting name too, because Minix is already taken as a name. It was what inspired Linus Torvalds to develop his own operating system. But I guess Intel recycled the name? Or did they actually install Minix, the teaching operating system from Andrew S. Tannenbaum, inside their processors? Intel chipsets for some years have included a management engine? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Systems using Intel chips that have an AMT are running Minix. It is the same operating system. That's brilliant. Really? Oh my god. Couldn't they find anything more modern? If that's true, that's hilarious. I'll definitely save that to my reading stack. That's okay, mind blown. Thanks for sharing that, the Lumen. Oh man, the stuff that processor companies do, and so much stuff that's getting published now with all these vulnerabilities, logo fail, and all that stuff. That's, I mean, if they actually use Minix in their processors or on their as inside their firmware, basically, not in the processors themselves, but in the firmware of their mainboards and stuff. Yeah, nothing should be surprising anymore. Wow. SoliDev just refueled. Congratulations. And that reminds me, cheers. Oh, I'll have to save that to read it later. Thanks for that. Let's go back to our questions. Not getting banned. Nope. That was actually valuable content. I always wanted to take a look at Minix actually, because since it's designed as a teaching operating system, it should give you some insight in how operating systems work. But then I got myself the annotated Unix source code. Where is it? It's back there. And it's basically the source code of Unix with annotations by the author, John Lyons. And yeah, it's a great way to actually get insight into how early Unix and operating systems in general work. So it's called Lyons Commentary on Unix 6th edition with source code. And a foreword by Dennis Ritchie himself. All right, folks. We're past the hour, so last orders. Pop into qa.monospacementor.com, ask your questions. Let me post it to chat. It's Lyons Commentary on Unix 6th edition, which was an early version of Unix. 6th edition should have been about 1975, I think. So it's definitely not anything up to date, but if you're just interested in the inner workings of operating systems, how interrupts were dealt with, how file systems worked, and how, for example, the boot process worked, this is definitely an interesting way to get into things. Why do I need to know Linux? Well, you don't. No one is forcing you to know Linux, but it's definitely something that's very valuable because the whole internet runs on Linux. So if the internet or things that are on the internet, technology that is based on the internet is interesting to you, I guess having at least basic knowledge about the operating system that is driving it all will definitely be of value. How do you cope, or have you faced a period of low desire, especially to study new things or improve the ones you already know how to use? Yes. Of course I did. And I actually was struggling with burnout a lot of times, where I just didn't know if I still wanted to do the stuff that I was doing, and where I felt the pressure of having to go deeper into stuff that I wasn't sure I was interested in. And so I think that happens to the best of us. And I think it's a good idea to investigate that a little bit and ask yourself, why is that? Is it just because I didn't get enough sleep in recent weeks? Or is it because I had a bad experience? So, for example, as I said, I'm running a managed hosting company, and sometimes, not often anymore, because our platform by now, after 13 years, is running very reliable, it's very mature. But of course, back in the early days when we introduced new stuff, that stuff tended to break. And after spending a night fighting some kind of an issue, trying to get things back that during an outage, appeasing customers. There were cases where we fought some kind of an incident for more than 24 hours. So we had to work on stuff, keep customers updated. But sometimes, as you know, there aren't any updates. You have been working for 2 hours and you are not a step closer to the solution than you were before. And that's really frustrating. It's really hard. As the CEO and CTO, I have the responsibility to explain stuff to our customers, especially in these cases. And that's really exhausting. And of course, during such an incident and shortly after one, you really start asking yourself, is that what I want to do? That is really stressful. I could just have a coding job or a system administrator job and do my stuff and go home and sleep at night. Yeah, that's when you start questioning things. But then in my case, I realized, sometimes that's happening, but how often does it happen? If I have to, say, lose a night with an outage once or twice a year, is that really that bad? On any other day, I have fun working with our customers. We get great feedback from them. Nowadays, we even get great feedback during outages, because we have built up so much trust. That customers say, hug ups to you, hopefully you'll get back online soon, and let us know when things are working again. You have to put things into perspective, and going after the reasons why you are basically in a funk definitely helps dealing with it. And what I did just end of last year is I finally went and got myself a therapist, whom I visited on a weekly basis end of last year, and I'll have my next appointment next week. And I guess from now on we'll be doing it on a monthly basis or even a lower frequency, because we've worked through the main issues that I had to deal with, and that also helped. Having someone who is not involved, like family members or people like that, who can ask questions, maybe even inconvenient questions, also helps getting to the root cause of what's draining your energy and your motivation. Hedonica asked in Twitch chat, what do you think about NixOS, which is somehow a stateless and recoverable operating system? Not sure if stateless is the right term. One of the common terms is immutable, which means that it basically has a state, but it's a steady state and it doesn't change it, which is also not true. I'm running Fedora Silverblue, which is a similar concept. It just means that changes to the host operating system don't have immediate effect. In case of Fedora Silverblue, you'll have to reboot usually to enable updates, and I'm a fan. I'm really a fan because my host operating system never was more stable and reliable than since I switched to Fedora Silverblue. And I can still do all the stuff that I want to do, just with different approaches. For example, I use container toolboxes to install the development software and to get my development environment set up. And it works great. I use Flatpak software packages to install graphical applications. And I use DistroBox for stuff that requires even a different Linux distribution or something like that. Even the OBS broadcasting software that I'm using right now is installed as its own DistroBox installation. It's an Ubuntu distribution with an OBS portable edition that comes with 50 plugins pre-installed and tested. And all I had to do is launch a new DistroBox instance and it doesn't pollute my host system. I can update it at any time. It doesn't interfere with my other container-based development environments. So yeah, Fedora Silverblue definitely taught me new approaches to get a more stable system and more specialized environments. And I'm pretty sure, even though I don't have any practical experience with it, NixOS does the same thing with its way of doing host system updates, with the Nix packaging and its different approaches to having specific shells for specific purposes. So yeah, it's definitely worth a try. And I think these immutable, let's call them that way, these immutable Linux distributions will be very successful in the future. Precious Up wrote in chat, I'm in the process of scaling that steep NixOS cliff wall of understanding. Yeah, it's definitely a different paradigm. I also had to get used to the stuff, how Fedora Silverblue does things, getting acquainted with Container Toolbox, with DistroBox. And for example, just recently, Jay from Learn Linux TV posted a great video about DistroBox that's worth watching if you are not familiar with it yet. Precious Up also wrote, nothing better than a great and skilled hosting company. I hope that's exactly what our customers are saying too. And Inode joined the chat as well. Hello there. Hello, Inode. How you doing? Inode, for example, just recently joined our Discord. And if you'd like to join a bunch of friendly people who are happy to help with all kinds of stuff, then go to monospacementor.com/Discord and join us as well. Here's a very specific question. If you wanted to create a whole new physical layer, a dedicated backbone that piggybacks off cell phone networks and communication satellites, how would you go about it? Wow. That's definitely far outside my comfort zone. But it's a really interesting thought experiment. So as far as I understand it, you're interested in creating a new physical layer so a physical communication layer that uses cell phone connections and satellite connections. Well, my first question would be, how do you even get access to those networks on the low level that you would have to access to build your own physical layer? I mean, other question would be, why would you want to do that if there are already ready-made solutions where you can actually use the existing protocols? But that's very far down the stack, this question. I'm actually really not sure what I would do because, yeah, as I said, I think it's going to be very hard to get low-level access to these communication lines without paying a fortune for partnering with providers and operators running those cell phone towers and communication satellites. Wow, that's something that I'll keep at the back of my head and ask myself. And yes, Early Dev asking the right questions here as well. Is this a thought experiment or is someone trying a new business idea? Do they have a project in mind? Yeah, you could be more specific if you like. Maybe that'll help. But in that on that very general and vague level, it's really hard to come up with a helpful answer. I know wrote in chat, crazy day today, grinding on Docker containers and now cooking. What do you enjoy more, the cooking or the working with Docker containers? There are times when I ask myself, shouldn't I rather do something with wood? Okay, it's 1:15, so I'll give you 5 more minutes to ask questions, and I promise to be concise with my answers. And then I'll have to wrap things up because, yeah, there's more stuff that I need to do, and I have my weekly coffee time with my daughter as well. Laman says it has to do with implementing quantum networks. Well, that's not cutting edge at all. Oh, wow. Yeah, I have no idea about all these things. I don't know about quantum networks. I don't know about how satellite communication even works. Well, I know on a very basic level, but yeah. Solidev asks in chat, so a quick Google looks like Fedora Silverblue is a Linux instance geared for running things in containers. And are you using it as a day-to-day OS? Yes, it's what's running on my workstation right now, where I'm doing my work and my streaming and everything. I have Fedora Silverblue on all my laptops, so it's my daily driver, and I really, really enjoy it. And the basic concept is actually separating the host operating system from your use cases. I think that's the very short of it. So other than, say, with Fedora Workstation or other common Linux distributions where you install the operating system and then you ask yourself, okay, so what do I need now? Well, I need NeoVim. So you install NeoVim on your host operating system. And so you go about your things, and week after week you install new stuff, and at some point you get into conflicts, or stuff becomes really shaky, or you can't install something because something else is blocking it. And now, yeah, you have to ask yourself, well, what to do now? Do I have to nuke and pave my whole host operating system? Do I have to switch to a different Linux distribution? Or what do I do? And that's something that won't be the case with these immutable operating systems anymore, because the host operating system is just to get to a working machine. So the basic use case of an operating system. You switch your machine on and it greets you with a login, and then after logging in you get a graphical user interface, and now the operating system has done its thing. For everything else, you basically use something that I would call sandboxes. So you do your installations in a way that won't affect the host operating system, and it also won't interfere with other sandboxes. So for example, you could use container technology for that. I'm using Container Toolbox for my day-to-day development setup. It's in that Container Toolbox where I'm running Fedora Workstation to install Tmux and NeoVim and Python modules and all that stuff that I need to do my daily work in the terminal. And another type of sandbox would be Flatpaks, where you install your graphical applications, not right on the host operating system, but in an isolated form, where your Flatpak installation of, say, Firefox is completely separate and comes with its own dependencies, and your installation of, say, LibreOffice is also completely separate as well. And that way, while stuff might still break, it's just Firefox that will break, and you'll have to reinstall Firefox or wait for a new Flatpak version of Firefox or something like that. But what this Flatpak won't do is interfere with other Flatpaks. usually at least. And it's the same with these container toolboxes. I can spin up my Fedora workstation container toolbox, but I can also run another container toolbox running Ubuntu, for example, or any other OS. And that in that isolated way, things are much more compartmentalized. Your blast radius of issues is much more contained, and that has been a joy because I haven't experienced any major issues with my machine and no major impact to my daily work since I started using Fedora Silverblue. Another thing that also comes into play is that not only does Fedora Silverblue install its own updates in a way that won't be enabled until you reboot your machine, if those updates create any kind of issues, you can simply reboot your machine again and select the previous set of packages that you had installed. So you get back to your old state, and since that state was definitely a working state, you can then simply continue with your day-to-day, and then you'll decide if you'll wait for another update or if you want to roll back completely and lose your latest updates that didn't work anyway, and try again a week from now or something like that. So once you are in a stable state for your host operating system, there is very low risk of anything happening that will make you that will hinder you from doing your work. Okay, let's finish up with a more meta question. What's the story behind the handle Monospace Mentor? Yes, of course, I'm happy to share. As they say, there are two hard challenges in computer science: naming and cache invalidation. And I think I have cache invalidation pretty much down, but naming has always been really hard. I have no background in marketing. I have no idea how these things work. I don't know how to make people buy my stuff, other than simply creating great products. And so I got the itch of doing my teaching again because I want to share my experience and knowledge that I've acquired over decades. And as I said, I enjoy that a lot. So I had to find a name for what is going to be eventually going to be my main business, in which I will simply teach people and do mentorships and things like that. And yes, you're of course correct, Solidev. So I thought, well, there are a few domains that I still have around, and one of them was Opsitive. So as a play on words between operations, the area of IT I have been in for decades now, and positive. I found that pretty nice and clever. So I used that for a few months. And then I listened to a podcast about branding and naming and things like that. And I learned that I was an idiot. That, for example, a name should be not very generic. It shouldn't be abstract like Opsitive. What does that even mean? It's not even a word. It's invented. And even if I say, yeah, it's about operations and positive, what does that mean? So I realized, yeah, that was a terrible name, and not least as clever as I thought it would be. And so I started from scratch and asked myself, okay, what's the thing that I'm about? Well, it's about teaching and mentoring and all these things. And It's going to be about system administration, more ops stuff, but also Ruby development, so the dev side as well. How do I express that in a name that is also memorable and does invoke an image, which Obsitive also didn't do? There is no image that pops up when you hear the word. In the end, I realized, well, the thing that is common between operations and development, except that there are both areas of IT, is that we use these nice monospace fonts that you can see right now on screen. Of course, I also, since I am a nerd, I love alliterations, and that's what got me to Monospace Mentor in the end, which is, I think, something that does evoke specific images and also tells people roughly what I'm going to do and things like that. So yeah, that's what I came up with and what became my brand name in the end. And I hope it'll be at least a little component of a successful business in the future. And with that, I'm going to wrap up to today's office hour. This was a lot of fun. Thank you for all your questions. Thanks for chatting. And I still have coffee left. So how about we'll talk until I've finished my coffee. You can still get questions in because there are a few sips left. Even if I make an effort of drinking it. Well, thanks for joining Why Do You Want Just Asking, and yeah, I'm happy if yeah, it's a strange concept. Sorry, Dev. It's strange concept. Coffee left. How does that even work? Well, it does work, or it does happen if you keep talking and monologuing. If people keep you talking, so yeah, I have a high tolerance for stream viewers. The Laman asks, so Docker, how hard is it to learn? Using Docker is pretty easy. There are so many tutorials out there that will help you getting that done. And if you are interested, there are also lots of articles and documentations that tell you how Docker works behind the scenes. And something that I just started today, and that's not even official yet. Oh yeah, it's not monospace.com, it's monospacementor.com. Codecrafters. Codecrafters is an interesting course platform that I got in touch with lately, and who I started partnering with. And what they do is basically give you more senior development challenges where you actually build your own services. You build your own DNS server, or you build your own Git, or you build your own Docker. And in that case, you definitely have to learn about change root environments, kernel namespaces, and other stuff. And so that will definitely get you into the details of these technologies. It's definitely not something that I would start doing as a novice, but if you are further along your development career, and if you're on the senior level or want to get to the senior level, that is definitely something that you should take a look at. And yeah, I have my own affiliate link, which is cc.monospacementor.com. So go and take a look. I think I'm going to do this build your own Docker challenge here, because Docker is a technology that I will definitely have to deal with on our hosting infrastructure as well. And knowing the ins and outs of it will definitely help running this whole system. Always goes out of full screen when I leave that. Okay. Yeah, so I would say first learn to use Docker or Podman for that. Podman is an open source variant that you can use instead of Docker. For example, all my container toolboxes on my machine here use Podman. And yeah, if you are further down the line, maybe one of these coding challenges like build your own Docker will even deepen your expertise in these topics. Not sure if I'm shedding wisdom. Why do you want just asking? I'm definitely shedding grey hair, but that's also something that hat helps with. And that was my last sip of coffee, which means we should take a look if there's someone who we can raid. And yes, there's White Panther. So let's go over to Salma and say hi. And yeah, I am very grateful for having your company during this office hour. Well, it was a little bit more than an hour, but anyway. And as the Llama says, this was fun for me too. I'm really grateful for you stopping by, for you following me. All your support means the world to me. I love it and hope to see you soon. And now I'm going to switch to our end scene and then we'll raid White Panther. Let me go ahead and start the raid. Let's go. Have a great weekend, everyone. Talk soon.